Hello, we are live. Welcome to another episode of Book Journey Mentor Uncut. But before we start, if you're watching via YouTube, click the link below to be notified to any broadcasts that go out and to subscribe to this channel. What is this channel all about? It's about offering self-publishing tips and writing tips to up-and-coming new and established authors as well. Who am I? My name is Danni Blechner. I am an author, book journey mentor, founder of a company called Conscious Dreams Publishing, and we work with authors from all over the world to help them get their powerful messages and stories out there in the form of professional books. In the bookcase behind me, you will see just some of the 88 books that we've published over the last 4 years. I'm absolutely passionate about offering unseen, unheard authors with powerful messages and stories to share a platform so that they can educate, inspire, and empower for generations to come. What is this show about? This show is a show that offers inside tips into the publishing process as well as writing process, an opportunity for authors to share their book journeys and stories with you and for you to engage and ask some questions. I think it's very easy to see a bookshelf full of books and just see the product, but very rarely do we understand or get to hear from the authors in terms of their whole book journey and process behind actually publishing a book. So my amazing guest today is, hey Naya, nice to see you, is Enomwoyi Damali, who actually joined us, I think it was about 9 months ago, and so far has published 2 of a 6-part series called the Nzhinga series of her books. She has published Nzingha and Saying Goodbye, as well as Nzhinga and Being Kind. And what I love about these children's books is that they really allow children to really understand different concepts. So Nzingha and Saying Goodbye is all about learning to deal with death and grief. Nzingha and Being Kind is all about learning about not just what kindness is, but all the different ways of showing kindness. And so it's all about developing skills such as empathy. A little bit about Enomwoyi before I bring her on. She is passionate about helping children develop into the very best way that they can be. She's worked as an educational psychologist for 30 years. She says a busy and satisfying job. And in her spare time, loves writing children's stories about topics that are so important for their development. So please send us some hearts, show us some love, and get ready for our amazing guest, Enomwoyi Damali. Hello, Enomwoyi. How are you doing?
What an introduction. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. How does it feel? You've published 2 books with us now. So how does it feel to be a published author?
Do you know, I still can't quite believe it. I remember sending you a message, Daniela, and I said to you, do you always get that excited feeling, that goosebump feeling when you get a new book in your hand? I mean, I've only published 2. You've published more than I have. And you said to me, yes. And I thought about that. And I thought, well, the day that I don't get that goosebump feeling, maybe it's time to stop writing. So it is as exciting with this second book as it was with the first. And I'm just really, really looking forward to the future with you, Danni. 4 more books to go with you.
Amazing. And we've got Yeshiba online at the moment who does, she reviews books as well. So perhaps she might want to get her hands on Nzingha and Being Kind, as well as the rest of the series to review. So there you go, Yeshiba. So tell us a little bit about your background. You say you're an educational psychologist. So tell us a little bit about that before we kind of delve into the books and your inspiration behind publishing them.
No problem. I've told this story a few times in the last couple of weeks. So forgive me for anybody that's hearing it for a 3rd time even. But I actually met an educational psychologist when I was 9 years old. One of the first Black educational psychologists in this country. My dad had taken me to see her because they were friends. And in those days, I'm talking back in the 70s, children were really seen but not heard. Well, in my family anyway. So I sat very nicely on the couch and listened to the conversation between my dad and this lady. And I can't tell you a single word of what they talked about at the time, but something registered with me. And I decided from that moment at age 9 to this moment that I've never wanted to do anything else. Now, wow. I don't know how many 9-year-olds there are out there listening to this, who would be clear about what they want to be, never mind be an educational psychologist. And I don't really think I understood what it was all about, but I liked the sound of it when I was 9. And then every moment since then, every decision I've made at school or college or uni has been about achieving my goal of being an educational psychologist. When I qualified, I went back to see the lady who inspired me, and I told her, I don't know if you know this, but you were my inspiration. And she burst into tears. She was so moved. And then she said to me, but you were so quiet. You didn't say a word. And I said, remember, in those days, children didn't. You just listened. You didn't say a word. If somebody said to you, would you like a glass of water? The answer was no. Unless your mum and dad had said, yeah, you can have some water. So no, it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, she was really moved. She had no idea that she'd made such an impression on me. You know, since then, I hope that I've maybe been some inspiration to other people who've come to me to say, I'm interested in being an ed psych. That's what we call for short, or an EP. Can you tell me more about it? It's been a wonderful 30-year career. I wouldn't change a single minute of it. But I have another passion now, which is
wow, a story. So you actually are living your childhood dream.
Indeed.
That's absolutely amazing.
Today I go to work knowing that I'm doing something that I love doing and have always wanted to do.
And that's really, so important.
Very blessed.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. And so for those who don't know, can you just explain a little bit about your role? What does an educational psychologist do?
Yeah, no problem. I wish I'd found a way to summarize this in one sentence, but I can't, so bear with me. Really, what I'm about, or what we are about as educational psychologists, is supporting children to do the best that they can do in their learning and in their general development. And we do that not just by talking with children and doing work with children, but by talking with the grown-ups around the children, because it's the grown-ups that will have the biggest impact on a child's life, not the educational psychologist. So a lot of times you will see us sitting with teachers, with teaching assistants, with parents and carers, talking about children and their needs, and definitely talking about children's strengths. Every child that is referred to me, no matter what they're referred to me for, will have strengths that we must utilize. So the ultimate goal is to help children do the best that they can with their learning, with making friendships, with feeling good about themselves. We are holistic practitioners. That means we are interested in all areas of children's development, and certainly not just reading, writing, maths, science, geography, history, and all those subjects that children learn at school.
The academic subjects, yes.
Yeah.
So tell us, what about what sort of age groups do you work with?
So we work with children from 0 to 25. So by the time you get to 25, you're not a child anymore, are you? You're a young adult. When I qualified 30 odd years ago, it was 0 to 18. And then in 2014, the law changed, and we and lots of other professionals were asked to extend the age range to 25. So it's a big age range, and the work, you're probably thinking, working with a child age 0, yes, that means but what you're doing is you're working with the parents who are expecting a baby, and perhaps thinking about how they're feeling and how they think they're going to cope and what support they're going to need. Talking with the other professionals who are supporting the mother of the unborn child and thinking how we support them. By the time you get to the other end, age 25, you're not thinking about reading, writing, and maths mostly, but you might be, but you're also thinking about really preparing for adulthood, how we can help young people who might be struggling one way or the other to find somewhere to live that's suitable for them, to access friendships and a community life, to get a job or training, to feel good about themselves. So you can imagine with 0 to 25, it's a very, very varied job. One that keeps us busy, but in a really exciting way.
I can imagine. So we have a question, and the question is, Naya says, such a beautiful profession, does it involve, I'll tell you what, here we go. Such a beautiful profession, does it involve a lot of sociology aspect? Thank you, Naya.
Yeah. Oh, sociology. I studied sociology O level. Really, really enjoyed it. O level. Gosh, I'm showing my age now. If by sociology you mean the study of society and the study of people's place in society, then I would say yes, we do. We won't call it sociology necessarily, but we're definitely interested in how young people fit in the wider communities. It's not just about their school, it's about friendships outside of school, it's about community groups that they might be belong to outside of school. It's thinking about future employment. It's a future life outside of school. So it's a really good question, and I would say the simple answer to that is yes, in terms of thinking about the wider context around children and young people.
Amazing, thank you. And so writing, has that been something that you've always wanted to do? Is that a childhood dream as well, or was it more sort of byproduct of, you working with young people?
When I was very young, so preschool, my interest was always writing and reading. Wasn't interested in books. I had a teddy bear that I named Edward. I couldn't even tell you where the teddy bear is. My interest was in reading and in writing, which makes me sound very boring. I hope I wasn't, because I did like playing out as well. So that was always an interest of mine. And I remember in those days when I was allowed to go to the library by myself, and every Saturday I would come back with the same book. Initially, it was The Cat in the Hat, and then later on, it was the adventure series, The Island of Adventure. And Mum used to say to me, "You've got to get different books. You have to have a wider range of books. You can't come home with the same book." And I would enjoy going to the library every Saturday, come home with my book, get into bed, literally get under the covers and just absorb myself in the Island of Adventure or the Cat in the Hat or whatever it was. And so, yeah, I then started writing stories, and I used to have a little exercise book and I would make up stories, often about families, actually, often about a mum and a dad and a family. And I have a cousin who used to joke when I was older about the family always lived in a house with a little picket fence going round the house and flowers growing round the doorway, kind of a fantasy of the idyllic family life. So did that, did A level English and really enjoyed doing A level literature and reading lots of different types of stories and genres of writing, although I have to say not particularly diverse when I look back at it now. And then left university and enjoyed life traveling and so on, and then settled down and had a family and forgot all about writing. Then about 10 years ago, I went to what would you call it, like an author event. And I heard somebody reading her story. It was a children's story. And I thought, and I hope this doesn't sound big headed, but I thought, I think I could do that. I hope that doesn't sound big headed, but that's what I was thinking. And I went home, I wrote a story one time about Nzhinga and her identity. Yeah, exactly. And I sent it to a publisher. I didn't get published. In fact, I sent it to maybe 7 or 8 different publishers and got nowhere fast. And at that time, I didn't know about J.K. Rowling and the number of times she had to send her book out before it was picked up. So I kind of lost a bit of motivation and thought, well, maybe I need to rethink this whole idea of writing children's stories. And then some years after that, I started learning about self-publishing and learning that maybe I could do this myself. So that's what I did. I found somebody who was able to guide me through the process. And I obviously had written the story already. I got an illustrator to do the drawings. And then I had to learn very quickly about editing and proofreading and formatting and typesetting and you know what, every type of ing you can imagine. And then didn't take that long, and Nzingha and Saying Goodbye was born. And that one was written after losing my dad, actually, about 6 years ago. And a number of people said to me, "Why would you choose such a sad topic for your first book?" And I said, well, actually, death is part of life. It's part of the cycle of life. Every single one of us is going to go through this journey at some point with somebody we love or for ourselves. And for children, my observation is people are afraid to talk about death with children, or they don't know how to talk about it with children, or they think it's a good thing to protect children from it, so avoid the topic, when actually we need to have these conversations in the open to help children prepare. Now, of course, you can never be prepared totally for death, never, no matter how much you study it. But I was hoping that when my dad died, and I was thinking, gosh, how do I talk to my granddaughter about this? Oh, I know, I'll write a book. That this book will help her and other children who either going through the process or not, because it's a book that you can read with children even without an experience of death, to help them when that time comes.
Thank you so much. And it's such a beautiful book as well. I think, like you say, it's such an important conversation to have with children as early as possible. And the way that you do that is through the loss of, so Nzingha's in Amber class with Mrs. Adisa, who I feel like I personally know. She's a great teacher. They lose the pet, the class pet. I don't know if you're watching, if you've ever had a class pet. I remember having a class pet, and we used to, I think it was two guinea pigs, I think, or a rabbit and a guinea pig, and a child would take the rabbit and guinea pig home, you know, every 2 weeks. It will kind of rotate round, because you learn about looking after another life, you know. And I think it's such a beautiful way to introduce the circle of life to young people as well. So thank you. There's a couple of comments here. Laya says, great, I was going to ask you about your educational journey. Okay, fantastic. Okay. We often forget how affected by death children can be, she says. And I had a basic conversation with my 4-year-old a few days ago about death. She was curious.
Great comments, great questions. Shall I respond to one of them?
If you'd like to,
yeah. I'll do the last one first. Children have feelings and feel emotion just as we do, and they feel it in their own way. And we can never, ever take it for granted that they're not affected by something. They may not talk about it. They may not appear to be affected on the outside. They may not be in the room at the time when certain topics are discussed, but believe me, they are hearing and then they're picking up emotion. If you think about a baby, even a baby who cannot communicate with you picks up your feelings, picks up your emotions. So the sooner we can give children permission to talk about their feelings, and the sooner we can give children the language to talk about their feelings, the more articulate we will be as a society. I think we're using the word emotionally literate. So we have a language to talk about emotions. So that's a really good point that you mentioned. Children feel things too. And children will hide things if they think that parents or carers or adults want them to hide things, and it's not okay to talk about things. And we have to understand that we have to give children permission to talk in a boundaried way, a constructive way, to help them with their feelings. That was the response to that. The first one was about my educational journey.
Oh, she said that you I think you answered about your educational journey. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. And like I said, I think it's a really important way, and a really creative way as well, to be able to open up the dialogue through the use of the book as well. So what's the response to Nzingha and Saying Goodbye been so far from young people that have read it?
Yeah, so I gave you one response from from one person anyway, which was why would you choose to write such a sad topic for your first book? It wasn't a criticism, I don't think. I think it was just an observation. And when I explained my reasons why, they understood it. It has been, the feedback has been amazing. A lot of people have come to me and said, either we're going through a bereavement, can we have your book? Or can I have your book just in case we go through a bereavement at some point? People love the fact that the introduction to death is through the rabbit Domino who dies. People really love the fact that a number of different emotions are expressed in the book. So it's not what it's saying in this book. The message is that people express a sense of loss in many, many different ways. So some people will be very sad. Some people will be in denial that it's happened. You know, there'll be a number of stages that people will go through, and that's in the book. And actually, for some people, an important point for them is to celebrate the life of the person that's died. So one of my favourite parts in the book is when the children are recalling people in their own lives who have died and what they remember about them. You know, Mrs. Harris, who had just one, I forget her name, one of the characters just had one dimple in her cheek, and Mr. Harris sang really loudly in the church. So, you know, there was some joyful memories, but sadness inevitably in the book as well.
Beautiful, thank you. 3 more comments from Naya. It was about the guinea pig, which she just got. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So that was a conversation was about the guinea pig. Would you please read a small excerpt from your book? Oh, what say you?
I would love to do that. I would love to do that. In fact, okay, I'm going to read the page where the children are talking about Domino, just because we've had a comment about the pet. So Mrs. Adisa, who is the most divine teacher ever. Okay, she's Trinidadian. Yay for Trinidad, and she's very glamorous, and she's very calm, very peaceful, very serious, but has a sense of humor. So she's everything I would want in a teacher. So she's told the children that Domino has died, and they've been reminiscing about Domino. They saw Mrs. Adisa's eyes shine with tears. They all felt sad. Domino was our school rabbit for 8 years, and that is a long time in rabbit years. So you mean he was very old? Asked Caden. Yes, he was very old and also very tired. Mrs. Adisa, did you see him when he died? Asked Stacey. No, it was Mr. Spooner who found him. But he wasn't sick, so why did he die? Asked Rebecca. Well, the vet came to see him and said that he was just very old. Poor Domino. I wish we could see him again, sighed Rebecca. Yes, we will all miss him, said Mrs. Adisa. Do you have any memories of Domino? He loved it when I tickled his ears. He used to nudge my hands to make me do it some more, said Andrew. I remember that he loved lettuce, but he didn't like carrots, said Nzhinga. Ugh, me neither, said Caden. Amber Class laughed, and Mrs. Adisa let the children talk about Domino.
I think that's one of my favourite books as well, actually. It just opens up a natural conversation about, because like you said in the beginning, often it sometimes is a taboo subject, and especially with adults, it's, oh no, don't talk about the person that died because that's going to bring up sad feelings. But actually, we need to talk about death. We need to talk about it. I lost my friend in December last year, and what was the most healing thing was being able to talk about the memories and to remember them and not to feel that you can't. So I thought that was a really beautiful part of your book, where they just had that natural, normal dialogue about, you know, what Domino likes eating and what he doesn't. It's really fun, a really fun part.
Mrs. Adisa shared how she felt as well.
Yes, yeah, really important. Would you say that was your favourite part, or was your favourite part when they started speaking about people they know that they've lost?
What can I say? I love every page, Daniela. Yeah,
she loves every page, Naya.
The bit that I mentioned earlier about Mr. Harris and Auntie Mabel. I don't know if any of you can see that picture. Yes. There they are. And Auntie Mabel just had one dimple, as I said, and Mr. Harris used to sing really loudly in the church. Different age groups, and they've died, and you can see the children underneath doing their writing and just remembering things about those people in their lives who have passed. So yeah, that's a nice it's a nice part in the story as well.
Beautiful, thank you. Naya says beautiful, thank you so much.
Thank you, Naya.
If anyone else has any questions and wants to get involved, do feel free to ask your question. If you have just tuned in, my name is Daniela Blechner, author, book journey mentor, founder of Conscious Dreams Publishing, interviewing the awesome and amazing Enomwoyi Damali, who is an educational psychologist and the author of the Nzingha series, Nzingha and Saying Goodbye, which Enomwoyi has, and Nzhinga and Being Kind. 2 of a 6-part series that is coming out, right? Well, these 2 are out right now. There's 4 more to go, and I'm sure you've got many more books inside you as well. In fact, I know you have. So let's talk a bit then about Nzingha and Being Kind. What was your inspiration about that as your second book?
One of the inspirations was earlier on this year. I don't know if people remember, somebody called Caroline Flack took her own life and had a really hard time in life because of things that people were saying about her. I really didn't follow the story too much at the time until after she died, and I realized how horrible it was for her. And I thought, oh gosh, if only we could be kind to each other, what a different world this would be. And that may sound a bit twee, but it's really important to me, just being kind to each other. And so that was one of the inspirations. I'd always had in my mind that I would do a book about kindness, but after Caroline Flack died, I decided definitely I'm going to write a book about kindness, because it's important that we teach our children so many qualities, and kindness is one of them. And it's such a simple thing to do, because it doesn't have to be a big thing. Kindness, it can be very, very small. And I remember there was a song that we used to sing in school. Love is something if you give it away. And I said,
you end up having more. Yes, I remember we sang that every morning.
All right, I thought you were going to ask me to sing it, and I said, don't go there. Yeah. So the being kind is just trying to get across this idea that a kind word or a simple kind deed to each other can make all the difference to somebody else's life, whether you're a child or an adult sometimes, or indeed both. And if we had a bit more of that, it would be a very, very different world. During lockdown, I've seen and heard and experienced so many wonderful acts of kindness. People looking in on their neighbours and delivering food, and calling people that they haven't spoken to for ages. And it's just been a kinder place in many ways. And I really hope that continues. And if my book can help, then job done.
Amazing, thank you. So Nzingha is in amber class, and I noticed that the uniform is also amber, and you're also wearing an amber orange top. Is amber your favorite color?
Well, the thing is, my favorite color is red. It's red. And I had a red jumper on before when we did a practice call, Danni, and I changed because I thought the orange would match.
And do you know what? I'm very much about colours. I'm wearing green because this is the closest green I've got to match of your book.
Yeah, so that's the story. But I must say, when I was at primary, everything seems to be about primary school. But remember, primary school, there's so significant moments in your early lives that shape your life later on. And I just remember somebody at primary school telling me that I couldn't wear bright colours, or that I shouldn't wear bright colours because I was too dark. And actually, it's at secondary school. And I took that to heart. I thought, well, she's an older person, a grown woman. She must know what she's talking about.
Oh, it was an older woman. I thought it was another child.
I'd gone to a party, and so she made that comment. I took that to heart because as a teenager and lacking in confidence, not feeling sure about myself and so on, I thought, well, she must be right. So I spent a long time not wearing colours, only wearing dark colours. And then, and I don't know what triggered this or what the turning point was, when I became a young adult now, I said to myself, that is a load of old nonsense. Or words to that effect. And surely it's about what you like wearing, and surely it's about what you feel suits your skin tone. So as a woman of colour, I feel that reds and oranges and yellows and whatever look great against my skin. So now if I was to open my wardrobe, it would look like a kaleidoscope because I've got every colour going, including blacks and browns and greys if I choose to wear that. But I love bright colours, reds, oranges.
Lovely. Well, that orange absolutely suits you. It's absolutely beautiful, and the yellow as well. I love it. So yes, but you're so right. We do remember things, especially when it's somebody of an older generation, when they say things to us, because we look up to them and we take what they say as truth. So I'm so glad you managed to unpick that and say, what a load of nonsense. We have some comments here. What a lovely lady. Hello, who's that? It's not at the Facebook. That's a lovely comment. Okay, that one's empty. Okay, fantastic. So speaking about, Janessa is here, one of our authors. Hey, sweetie, congratulations.
Hello,
So speaking about representation, you spoke about being a woman of colour, and how I'm assuming it was a white lady who'd said this to you, in an ignorant statement that she's made. How important do you feel? I mean, it sounds like a silly question. I've started. Why do you think it's so important to have a diverse array of books featuring diverse characters? You and I, when we grew up, I know when I grew up, there were rarely any children's books that featured anyone other than people that look like Topsy and Tim and Jane and Peter. Not to say there's anything wrong with those books, but we didn't get fed narratives from other cultures or backgrounds. And so how important do you think this is?
First of all, it's not a silly question, Daniela. As I say to any young person that I meet, or anybody that says that, there is no such thing. The only silly thing is not to ask the question.
Thanks, Miss.
So it's not a silly question, it's a very good question. And what's bigger than 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000%? I don't know. It's so important that I can't even give a figure on it. If generation after generation, people are looking in books and looking on the television and looking in the media, and they don't see people that look like them, that is doing something to them consciously and unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
It's not feeding them information in any way is helping them to feel good about themselves. Unless they've got really strong people around them, like I had in my family. I had a mum and a dad who, they were very pro us feeling good about themselves as people of African Caribbean heritage. So even though the books were Eurocentric, and don't get me wrong, I love The Island of Adventure and I loved all of these books, there was nothing there to show me that I was worthy of being in a book. So it is time, and it's been time for a long time, to put a stop to that sort of thing. And we're still facing it now. You go to a school classroom now, and you will find some books featuring the main characters being from the Black African minority ethnic community or people of colour, but not many. And so, my goal is to get my books where the lead character is of Trinidadian, Black Caribbean heritage into every single primary school in this country. Yeah,
I love how she's got Trinidadian in there.
Yeah.
I'll do the Jamaicans.
Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. So Naya says, our children need to see a societal reflections in front of them. Society is diverse and it should reflect that. Exactly. 39% of children in the UK are from Black, Asian. I can't stand this term BAME because it's literally saying non-white, isn't it? Yeah. But that's the kind of class that's been, I can't even say Black and brown because minority ethnics also include, I'm assuming, Eastern European, including Latinos. So there needs to be another term, but 39% of children in the UK are not from, a Eurocentric background. So yeah, 100%. Someone else says representation is so important. Exactly. And leading on to representation, we actually have an event called Black Authors on the Rise, featuring 10 of our amazing authors from African and Caribbean heritage, one of which is Enomwoyi Damali, on Sunday, the 25th of October, 3 till 6 p.m. I'm going to put the link in the comments. Every month we're going to be holding events, but this one specifically is championing our Black authors on the rise. I want to throw another statistic out there. 6% of authors in the mainstream publishing industry are actually of African Caribbean heritage in the UK. To me, that's unacceptable. We've been running for 4 years and I've published, I think it's just over 60 authors of African Caribbean heritage. So we're out there, we've got our stories, we're telling our stories, we're publishing with or without the mainstream, whether people are self-publishing or whether they're working through a partnership publishing company like myself or we're working with a book coach. We are out there. And so this event really is about celebrating these authors and also acknowledging the importance of, somebody else has said, representation matters. Nikki Jones is here. Hey, she's also one of our authors. Her book is on our bookshelf over there.
Hi, Nikki.
There you go, the purple one. Renee's Magical Wellington Boots. She was one of our first authors actually back in 2016, 17 even. So thank you, Nikki, for that lovely comment. Janessa says, yes, it's very important to see your own identity reflected back to you. It gives you a sense of belonging and society. 100%.
Yeah. I must say, I must use the word diversity though, because originally my books featured in the main Black and African children, Black children. And then I work in an inner city borough, and any classroom you go to, it's a diverse group of children. So
Yeah.
I changed my idea, and now in all the books, the central character is Nzhinga, who is Trinidadian heritage. Yeah. Also, you've got Andrew, a little white boy, who he loves athletics and sport and so on. You've also
got a very cheeky grin, and you've been looking at him all interview.
Yeah, cheeky chappy. You've also got Rebecca, and she's mixed heritage, so she's got a black Rastafarian father and an Indian mother. Down below, you can't see the children underneath, but we've got Caden, whose parents are Jamaican heritage. You'll be happy to hear that, Daniela. And then we've got Stacey, who's white, and she wants to be a dancer. And then a newest character is Zhao Lin. I hope I've said her name right. I got her name from a Chinese friend of mine, and she is Chinese background, and she's actually in a wheelchair. So
here she is.
Jiaolin, yeah. I've really tried to reflect wider diversity in our society and also the strengths of all different groups of people coming together.
Awesome. Thank you. Nikki says, love it. Yes, thank you so much for the support. What we'll do is we'll post a link to the books in the comments as well after the interview, or you can look them up and find them on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Foyles, Waterstones, wherever you want to get it from. You can find the series there. So tell us a little bit then about the publishing process. So the very first one you did, Nzingha and Saying Goodbye, you did for yourself through learning about the publishing process. And then you recently came back to me after you published Nzhinga and Being Kind, and we republished Nzingha and Saying Goodbye. So tell us a little bit about the two journeys.
Yeah, so there's work involved in both of them. that's one thing to say. So if you're passionate about your book and you believe in yourself, be prepared that there is still some work to do. The writing of the book is just the very, very beginning. So with the self-publishing, I had a great support from the illustrator, who became a bit like a jack of all trades, or jack of all trades, in that he helped me with the type. Well, he did the typing and the typesetting and the editing and the proofreading and taking it to the printers and all of that. But it's whether you self-publish or go through a publisher like Daniela, there are a number of steps to go through, and there is work involved, and it does take time, and it is well worth it in the end. Every single minute of, will I ever get to the end of this process? It's worth it. When it came to the second book, Nzingha and Being Kind, I had gone to a cultural market, and there was a young man on the other side of the room, and he was selling his book, which was a colouring book about Black history. So because I'm sociable, or some people might say nosy, I went over to talk to him and asked him about his book, and I thought his book was great, and I said, well, did you self-publish, or how did you do it? And he told me about Danni.
Oh,
and
wow.
He told me, did you not know that's how I come?
No, I didn't. Who is this? Well, you can tell me after if you want.
Yeah, no, he gave me your details, and I thought, well, I'm going to go down that route, because he spoke so positively about you, Danni, and the work that you're doing to promote authors of colour and to help authors on their journey. And it is a journey. there is a destination at the end, but there's lots of steps along the way. So I decided to try it. The first step was to book a call, a consultation with Danni over the phone. And Danni is, let me see now, Danni is organized, Danni is punctual, Danni is, I don't know, I'm going to run out of words in a minute because this is not the Danni show, but if it was, I'd go on.
Tell my school teachers that. It's the exact opposite, but that's lovely to hear.
So Danni called me at the time that we agreed, and then she was interested in me as a person, as an author, and what I was trying to do through my books. So I told her what I had written and my goals and aspirations for the books, why I was writing them, what I wanted to achieve, and so on. And then I think the next thing was she was going to go away and read one of the books. So she had some homework to do. And she was going to ring me back. Now, I thought I was going to get a call immediately, and I didn't. It took a few days. I didn't realize that Danni's got lots of people that she's supporting. So I didn't hear from her, and I thought, okay, that means Danni's not wanting to work with me.
Oh.
Then the phone rang a few days later, and I remember talking to my husband who was at the desk, and I said, oh my God, it's Danni. I wonder what she's going to say. Picked up the phone, and she told me that she really loved, I can't even remember the words, it was something like, I really love the idea. Well, that was just too much for me. I thought, oh my gosh, for Danni to say that, maybe there's something in the book. So from that moment, Danni knows her stuff. She knows every single step of the way and guided me through the getting an illustrator, because it was a different illustrator for the second book. She had the typesetter. She is the editor, so she edited and proofread, guided me through every single step of the process. So I felt held, I felt supported through the whole thing. And it was not as difficult for me anyway, the second time through Danni as it was the first time. It was much more onerous the first time. So it wasn't entirely a smooth journey. There were some detours along the way. But we got there in the end, and yeah, just hugely grateful to Danni for all her support, encouragement, words of wisdom, advice. Her knowledge about publishing is second to none. And so yeah, that's my journey. Thank you, Danni.
Oh, wow, thank you. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you so much. So yeah, like you said, the road wasn't always smooth. And I think when it comes to publishing children's books, especially when you have a vision, you want things to be how you vision it to be. So with the illustrations, there were lots of different tweaks here and there that were needed. So I think it's really important with the transparency. If you're an author and you are publishing a children's book, to make sure that you've got a clear vision, and that when you're working with that illustrator, to really do your research about who you're working with as well, I think, and to keep going until that vision is how you want it. So definitely really important, I think. So you've got lots of comments here. Naya says, I'm really impressed. Look forward to adding these to my children's collection. Yay!
Oh, wow, thank you, Naya. Thank you so much.
Excellent group of characters.
Good, thank you, Janessa.
Naya says, so important because I used to focus on buying books with animal characters. Those were the only kind of diverse books I could find.
I did exactly the same thing with my children, Naya. Yeah, exactly, because I didn't want a whole shelf of books with people that don't look like my children. So I ended up, the second best was animals, but we now have an alternative. I mean, you've heard about mine, but Danni's got so many others, that you can choose from.
Naya says, beautiful when your reputation precedes you.
Oh gosh, that's lovely. Oh my goodness, I'm filling up here.
Juliet says, that's what I do. What was that in relation to? So you might have missed that part. Let's know, Juliet. Hey, Juliet.
By animal books.
No, I'm not sure. Okay. Thank you, Naya. Janessa says, Danni is professional enthusiast. I'm embarrassed reading that. That's so nice. Thank you so much.
So true.
That's really lovely. That's really lovely. I really appreciate that. So what has been the most rewarding thing about publishing a book, and what is the most rewarding thing about working with young people?
Okay, so the most rewarding things with being, sorry, I'm getting distracted. I'm not great at multitasking, but I am because I'm a woman. I must remind myself.
Yes.
The most rewarding thing about publishing.
Yeah. Yes, that one first. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's getting to the end of the process, however long that takes. It's knowing that you actually finished the process, you've got to the end, you've completed your journey, and then you can look back and celebrate. So, like I said earlier, the minute you get that proof in your hand, mine came through the post, and you open it up and you think, wow, that is my name on that book. This is my work, supported by the artist or the illustrator and supported by Danni. So it's getting to the end of the journey. Just like any journey, you get in the car and you've got to go to Leeds or Devon or wherever. And when you finally reach that destination after a long, tiring journey, thinking, I'm never going to get there. It's just such a celebration, just a wonderful, wonderful moment. So yeah, that would be the highlight.
I've seen on your...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've seen on your Instagram page different pictures of young children holding the books.
So that is what I was just about to say. When a child holds that book and they start reading it, and I can see the motivation, enthusiasm, or joy in their eyes, or questions actually. One little boy recently, he read the book and he got to the page where two children were sharing a bag of crisps as an example of one being kind to the other. And he looked puzzled, and I said, "Oh, what are you thinking?" And he said, "I'm confused." And I said, "Okay, so tell me, what are you confused about?" And he said, "Oh, we're not allowed to have crisps in school." And I said, "Oh, is that because you're not allowed to eat unhealthy things?" And he then started to tell me about the restrictions because of COVID. So they're not allowed to
Right.
they're not allowed to share food in school because of COVID. So the book then led to a discussion with this young man. He must have been about 8, actually 8, the same age as Nzhinga in that story, about COVID and what it means for him and how he feels. So when a child holds my book and they get something from it, and it might be nothing to do with what I intended, that is a joy for me, a real joy. So yeah, the Instagram page, I'm building up a portfolio of children reading the book. And I do not pay their parents, believe me.
That's really beautiful, actually. That idea opens up discussions about other things, just to looking illustrations of stories as well. That's a really beautiful point. Thank you. So Juliet says she's replying to the comment about animals. Cool, thank you. Nikki says, I love the diversity in your book, so important for children to recognise themselves. Yes. Ryan says, I'm so glad I've tuned in so motivational and great to see the historical contribution you're both making. We thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Janessa says, when you get that proof copy of your book, it's everything. Yes. Yeah. Janessa's book is also on the shelf, The Healing Messages from Within. It's over there somewhere. Juliet says, such a diverse group, most children will relate to a character. Yes.
I hope so. That's the plan, yeah.
And Janessa's given us some hearts. Thank you so much. So what is next for you, Enomwoyi?
What, in terms of tonight or in terms of...
In general, what are your next projects and plans? Are you planning to do any workshop talks? What's your next book?
So the next book is Nzingha and Identity. So it's children feeling good of their cultural identity. And all the children that I've talked about before will be talking about their cultural heritage and the positives about that and sharing them as a class. And of course, Mrs. Adisa is going to have something to say about Trinidad.
Of course she will.
That's the very next book. But I've also written a longer book for slightly older children about the COVID experience. and what it's felt like being in lockdown and children's fears and anxieties about COVID. And in some cases, the things that they've appreciated, being at home with mum and dad. As part of my work, I did a video for young children about COVID and lockdown, and I was sort of interviewing my granddaughter, a bit like this actually. I thought if I'm going to talk to young children, maybe I should have a young person. So I interviewed her and I said to her, how do you feel about being at home and not being able to see your friends? What do you think she said?
Does she enjoy being at home with her family as well? She's got to see her family a bit more.
She said, it's annoying.
Oh, sorry, all
so of course I say to her, oh, tell me what's annoying about being. She said it's because she can't go to school and see her teacher and her friends. Yeah. So that's the book that I'm hoping, because I think COVID is going to be around for a while. I think we may be going into increasing restrictions. So a book for children about coping with coronavirus and coping with lockdown might be a good one. So
brilliant.
That's the plan.
That's fantastic. I've just got one more thing. I was thinking as you were reading and as you've been speaking, you've got a really beautiful tone to your voice. I could listen all day. So have you thought about doing an audio book or some sort of YouTube reading or talks in schools? Maybe not talks in schools at the moment, but with using your voice.
It's funny because I've always hated my voice. I mean,
really?
You know what it is, Danni, and everybody who's listening? When I hear my voice on the phone, I feel that I don't sound like a person of colour. And that drives me mad. And it's really bothered me in life. Until more recently, and I've said to myself, this is me. I know who I am inside, no matter what I sound like on the outside. And actually, it's my mum and dad's fault, because they drummed into me as a child that I need to talk in a certain way. So I'm going to blame them, not myself. So, on that basis, yes, I have thought about doing audio books and online readings and things. Something that I'm going to need to get some advice on, Danni.
Wow, I've got some things in the pipeline, so we'll definitely have a little talk. That's something we're going to be starting to do, so I'm quite excited about that as well. But yeah, I think you've got a beautiful voice. And someone else also says, I was going to say exactly that about your voice and doing a video reading. There you go. Great minds think alike. Juliet says audio would be great. Nikki says, I love your voice.
Wow,
Ryan says, I love your voice, beautifully spoken. That's about 4 of us now in less than 5 minutes.
So
less than 3 minutes. Yes, I think it's called you now. It's called you. Drop the seed. Okay, so how can people connect with you?
So I tell you what, my daughter's going to be very angry with me if I don't get this right. So it's Nzhinga Life _
Okay.
For the Twitter and the Instagram and the Facebook, and then Enomwoyi Damali _ for Facebook. I think what I'm going to have to do is put it in the chat. Oh my God.
We'll put it in the chat. We'll put it in the chat. Obviously, Enomwoyi is tagged into this post, so you can connect with her on Facebook that way. And you're on Instagram.
Nzhinga Life _ is one way to get through, contact me.
Nzhinga Life _ okay. Thank you so much. And where can people get your books from?
Say it again.
And where can people get your books from?
Right, so a number of places. The first place is from thisisbooklove.com. She's an independent book distributor, the person that runs this company. Her name is Samantha Williams. And she's sort of in parallel to Danni in some ways. Danni is at the end of helping people to get their book published. And Samantha Williams, especially authors of colour. And Samantha, her passion is to distribute books of people, of authors of colour. So thisisbooklove.com, or there is Amazon as well. If you if you want to purchase the book that way. And I think it's also in Waterstones, but I'm not so sure about that.
It's all good retailers, so it's Amazon, Barnes and Noble. If you just Google Nzhinga and Being Kind, or any of the titles that will come up. But try this as book love. You can buy it online, and also you're supporting a company rather than paying huge giants like Amazon. Which are great for obviously distribution, but this is book love. And they also do traveling carnivals, so you can actually go to visit the stalls. They go to different places, and they have different stalls in different areas around London. I don't know if they're outside of London as well, but certainly London anyway, where you can actually buy the books physically, so that would be great. Any parting last words from you, Enomwoyi?
Just sending love to everybody that has tuned in. Is that the right terminology? Am I showing my age there? Gosh, anybody that's listening or looking. So sending love to all of you, and good health in these times, and good spirits. Anybody that's thinking about writing, do it. Just put pen to paper or fingertips on keyboards or voice into voice recorder or whatever, and get your story down. Whatever the story's about, that's the place to start, because after you get it down, then you can always edit and proofread and come back to and so on. So do that. If it's your dream, just go for it, because 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I just could not have imagined that I would be sitting here being described as an author, and I'm just an ordinary person. I have nothing special or unique about me, and if I can do it, you can too. So good luck to everybody who's in the process of doing it. Keep going, and I look forward to seeing some of you anyway at some point in the future on Danni's show again.
Thank you so.
To you, Danni. Thank you again for your support as well.
Thank you so much. I could listen to you all day. So let's get talking about the audiobook. Last comments here. Oh, sorry. Janessa says, no, you've always had a smooth and calming, kind voice, and you are so inspirational in own way. Congratulations on your new grandchild as well.
Yes. Little boy born in. Somebody called him a COVID baby, and I said, baby was born in July, and his name is Jabari, which means mighty warrior. He's not that. Yeah, he didn't start off as a mighty warrior, but he definitely is now. Oh my goodness! Absolute joy to come home from work, because he lives with us. To come home from work and see him every day, just a blessing. You think you love your children too much, but don't talk about the grandchildren.
Oh, what a beautiful finish! And he is soon to be reader. Look at me, pushy mum. Soon to be reader. At some point, obviously, when he's older, he can read the books. Congratulations. Nikki says, thank you so much. Beautiful name. And Janessa sends her love. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. It's been an amazing show. Thank you so much for your brilliant engagement. In Enomwoyi, I will see you on Sunday. At Black Authors on the Rise. We'll pop the links all in the comments. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Join us next week, Wednesday, 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST, for another episode of Book Journey Mentor Uncut. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.